Hey guys, welcome to another edition here brought to you by Econemotions and Magnelibra. I'm Mike Gagney, the CIO of Magnelibra, home of the Blue Dragon Global Macro Discretionary CTA program. You can find more information at magnelibra.com, and you can also go to our blog econemotions.com, which you see here, which we generally try to write a couple times a month, and now we're doing the video blogs as well, so you can find us on YouTube at the Econemotions channel. First up this week, we saw it came out today actually, the White House rolling out a website to report Silicon Valley censorship. Well, it's about time, guys, because we do live in America and free speech is our right. And these big tech giants, Google, Twitter, Facebook, you know, they can't keep doing this. They're dividing the country, they're spinning their own narratives to their liberal left ways, and although I'm not that way, and if you are, that's fine with me. I'm a strict conservative, but I respect your views, you should respect mine, and we should be able to speak freely on our platform. So this will be interesting to see how this goes. This just came out today, so I didn't get to really read too much of what they were planning on doing, but it seems like you can report them at this site. So if anybody feels like they're being censored, I guess now you have a platform to complain to the government. So we'll see how it goes, just protecting our First Amendment right here. Next up, we've got, saw this today out of USA Today, the birth rate hits a 32-year low and moving down to 1.728 births per woman. So, yeah guys, we know how hard it is to raise a family, we know how much it costs, and this definitely is playing into that. You know, whether or not that there's more to it than that, you know, it could be a little bit, fact that there's more women in the workplace will add to that, but we definitely think that the overall price of raising a family and the cost of housing and the cost of everything, you know, maybe people are just opting to have children later on in life, and thus that's limiting their ability to have more than one or two. But this is a growing trend, and we're not really sure of the exact attributes causing it, and we look at the economic side of it, and it's definitely, you know, it does, you know, cost a tremendous amount to raise a family, and you know this number doesn't really shock us too much. Also came out today, actually the vote was yesterday, Alabama governor signs near total abortion ban into law. Now this doesn't make it illegal for you to have an abortion, it makes it illegal for someone to provide it, I believe here, let's see here. The ban, sponsored by Republican State Rep Terry Collins, makes it a felony punishable by life or 10 to 99 years in prison to perform an abortion in the state of Alabama. Attempting an abortion would be a felony with a prison sentence of 1 to 10 years. The only exceptions to the ban would be a threat to the life of the mother, a mental illness where a birth might lead to a woman's death or a death of her child, or in the case of fetal anomalies where a child might be stillborn or die right after birth. So you can read more about that, but you can definitely see the divisiveness between the red states and the blue states of which way they're going. They're exact polar opposites, kind of like their political viewpoints as well. So, you know, this will probably drive migration to, you know, once again, where we might lead to a civil war down the road to where blue states and red states are fight, you know, but I don't know why you would need that. Just move to one of the states that are more aligned with your viewpoints. Yeah, this was in terms of speaking about children and life and happiness, you know, Harvard did this study here, you know,
we went
for over 80 years, you know, they followed and tracked individuals from all sorts of demographics and throughout their whole life to try and understand what actually drove their happiness. I'm going to get to a quote here
on these lines,
and I'll let this guy speak here, and you know, see what their conclusions are. You know, we're big fans of data, and to compile this much data over this many years, it's worthy of a listen. So let's listen to hear what he has to say. What makes a good life? Lessons from the longest study on happiness. Robert Waldinger at the TEDx Beacon Street speaking here.
Well, the lessons aren't about wealth or fame or working harder and harder. The clearest message that we get from this 75-year study is this: good relationships keep us happier and healthier.
There you go, guys. Good relationships keep us happier and healthier.
Period. We've learned 3 big lessons about relationships. The first is that social connections are really good for us and that loneliness kills. It turns out that people who are more socially connected to family, to friends, to community are happier, they're physically healthier, and they live longer.
There you go, guys. You can find this TED talk online, so we definitely recommend it, and we think a lot of what their data finds is we have experienced as well. So take a look at it, see what you think. Moving on, let's cover Bitcoin here real quick. It has resurged here this year, up I think 120 some percent. But we follow Northman Trader, and Sven does an excellent job of pointing out the technicals, and he doesn't generally mess with the fundamentals too much. He's more of a technical analyst, but he definitely has the capacity to handle the fundamentals of what's driving these things. But in here he shows his chart, and he uses Fibonacci's as well, which, you know, we're big fans of Fibonacci in not only in trading but in life in general. And these ratios in mathematics, they do mean, you know, they do mean something. So he's just pointing out the fact that we're moving into this 8,000 area, 8 to 9,000, which is kind of the base that we broke through. You know, it took a little while to finally break through, and then it did, and then it collapsed down here to 3,000. But now we're back up here testing it, so he's saying that this is a big area to keep an eye on. Expecting some resistance, but ultimately this is bullish. As you know, is up above 7,000. We're going to continue bullish and maybe project and reach a high up here to 11,600. So let's keep an eye on that. If you don't follow Northman Trader, I definitely think you should go to his website. He also puts out YouTube videos as well, so give him a look and see what you guys think. As far as the price of Bitcoin, 8,200 today. It's up, yeah, like as we said, 121% in 2019 alone. It's still down year over year, 12 months, a little bit. Here we go. I think, yeah, here we go, 3%. So it's close to where it was a year ago, but the fact that it's up 121% this year is really on the heels of both oversold and, you know, increased blockchain ecosystems growing and more adoption. The adoption rate is growing. And we like Bitcoin, and we always tell people that, you know, they always say, hey, you know, it's a novelty. It could go to zero. Yeah, it could go to zero, or it can go to $1 million. Who knows where it can go? But all I can tell you is it's $8,000 more than $1. And the fact that it's built on blockchain and a decentralized system has a lot of, you know, attributes that people, especially in authoritarian countries like China, where they can move into this, or Venezuela, and they don't have to worry about somebody confiscating it because you can't do it. It doesn't exist anywhere. So we definitely feel that this is a great competitor to fiat, and we are shocked that like Amazon or Apple hasn't come out and bought a big chunk of something like this and then just incorporate it into their systems, basically saying, you know what, look, we can adopt this payment type system, and you know, we can cover the whole gamut of healthcare. You know, Amazon owns Whole Foods now, so we can cover food, we can cover healthcare. I'm surprised Amazon hasn't gotten into real estate yet and offering mortgages, because once they have the full suite of humans' necessities and needs in terms of, you know, having a one-stop shop for everything, then why not use a decentralized payment system and ultimately eliminate fiat? And I always tell people, I go, look, I don't care about the conversion price. If I'm looking at this to buy it, I'm never looking to sell it. So I don't care what the dollar value of it is. You know, the utility, I know how the utility of blockchain in terms of technology is, and there's nothing that can compete with it. So it's only going to grow. It's only grow further in adoption, and Bitcoin's been around for a decade now, and it's still the top dog, and it will continue to be the top dog. And so this is, you know, for people to call and write it off, or you get Buffett, like we talked about last week. Who cares what that guy says? He hasn't beaten the S&P in a decade, so everyone praises this guy, but he also invested in a value investor, one of the easiest times in this country to invest, from the 80s on, late 70s to 80s to now. So in that time, I mean, yeah, he's had a lot of luck and a lot of right place, right time. But for him to denounce or, you know, even denigrate blockchain and Bitcoin is absurd. And like I said in I think last week's report, you know, why would we even ask Warren Buffett about it? We already know he's a value investor. He's not even going to look at this. He even hates gold when we know that gold still buys the same 1 ounce gold as it did in 1913 as it does today. Still buy a nice great suit. So what really holds value? Something valued in fiat, or something that, you know, totally is, you know, the future of that's decentralized and digital. So I'll take Bitcoin any day. And something else we talked about last week, we wanted to make people cognizant of Beyond Meat, and you know, it's something that we would love to try. It's a plant-based meat, and they IPO'd a couple weeks ago, and it's really piqued our interest because we know that the mentality is changing around people's becoming more health conscious. And not that everyone wants to be a vegan, but people want to maybe not eat as much meat or chicken or pork, and this is a good alternative. So we think we're going to try it and give it a little clean assessment of their product. But you can see here that the investors really love it. Opened up around 47, it's now trading $90 or close to $90. So this is one to watch, and we expect it to continue to gain traction. So let's keep an eye on this one and see how this fares. Moving to the tech charts, we can see the technology has led the way this year, obviously since the late December move after Christmas Eve. It's been straight up, and the FANGs have definitely led the way. But then Google came out with some bad forward guidance, and that really started the new downtrend lower in technology compared to the S&P 500. And at Magnelibra, we love to trade pairs, and that's what we do. We're a long short. And we generally look, when we're looking at the FANGs, we're looking at the Nasdaq. So this would basically be our Nasdaq proxy versus the S&P, and you can see we've gone into this downtrend now. So, we've popped a little bit today. We expect that's just, in terms of, the veracity of that, it was pretty solid. The Nasdaq did outperform quite a bit, but we, to us here, unless we break out of this downward trend here, which we've been in since late April, we don't expect it to, continue to outpace. It's still in the downtrend for us, and we think there's going to be some transition out of the technology stocks, which would say, the Nasdaq did bounce. It got down 7.6% off its highs here, but it has bounced up to the 7,500 area, which is also the 50-period VWAP, which is kind of our proxy magnet for these markets. And it's stalling here, or just closer. I shouldn't say it's stalling. It met here. Now, could it go higher from here? Sure. But if it starts to trade back below 75.26, and we get a close this week below 7,500, we're going to say that the downtrend is still intact, and the bears are still in control. Moving over to the S&P 500, you can see that if we had a nice trend channel here, you would see it's obviously lower, as well. And once again, the 50-period VWAPs, they stopped it right there, and it stopped it here over the last 3 weeks, 2 weeks. So the S&P's got some heavy resistance at 2860. We hit it today, and we'll see how they react tomorrow. I think this week's close is pretty important. If we do some back and filling down here, we're going to have to say that the downtrend is still intact. Now, if we start to trade up here, we get about 2870 settle, then, maybe the bulls are in control, and they're bullish on the China and U.S. Tariffs are going to, come to a possible resolution, which we doubt it. This is bigger than what people are leading on to, and it's having a huge systemic effect on geopolitical relationships. So we expect this to grow. We expect China to try and say they can withstand it for as long as they can, but we know that's not the truth. They're going to have to devalue the yuan eventually. Their economy depends on our exports, more than than we rely on their imports. So we'll see. There was talk about them selling our treasuries, which that's all false. They can't really do that. They're highly dependent on those liquid treasuries for safety, and they really can't dump them. Even if they did, they're like 1/6 of the foreign owners. So that's U.S. pension funds and insurers would gladly take them off their hands. So we're not too concerned about that. One of the other markets we like to follow is the DAX over in Europe. It's a big contract, and we tend to think that it leads the way a little bit sometimes, and it did lead the way on the initial bounce here into the lows. And then once again, the 50-period VWAP held the DAX on its lows, and look what we did. But we consider this a short-term bearish market bounce, so we're not really too giddy on it exploding from here. But it is a nice reprieve from the down move they had, but really above 12,250 here in the DAX, and that'll get us to turn a little bit more bullish. But right now, this is nothing more than weeding out the weak shorts. Staying over in Europe, we can see that the euro has also been in a downtrend since the end of 2018, and it just cannot trade higher. Every time it it tries to bounce, it's in this nice downtrend channel. And once again, the 50-period VWAP sits right here. So, every time we get up to here, then it seems to just sell off, and they really, the yields over there are I think they're even lower than the Bund is lower than the Japanese 10-year now. So, what's Draghi going to do? Where can he really go? They're going to have to continue QE. They're going to have to continue expanding the balance sheet, which has grown 2.5 times in the last 3 or 4 years. So, You know, and now you throw Brexit onto this, who knows? You know, it should weaken up. The dollar should strengthen against it, and even if the Fed does cut rates, you know, the ECB's not going to be too far behind. And with the shenanigans that they're pulling over there, and the Target 2 and the ECB's backstopping the other national central banks, the information's too readily available. We're onto these guys, and they're just debasing their currencies as quickly as they can. But you know, maybe that's the reason why Bitcoin's exploding as well. Moving over to the U.S. bond market, we like to look at the U.S. the long end. You know, even though the short end's been in vogue lately here because of the Fed may have to start cutting rates, and but we, you know, we've traded our you know, most of our career was built on trading U.S. Treasuries against the on-the-run Treasury. So actually, the futures here is a derivative of that, and we spent our career in arbitrage doing that. So this is something we've known and we've watched for 2 decades now. And you know, it has a nice run up here from the 146, but you know, it stalled here the last time at 150, and then we got back down here, and then we ran back up again. So it's a nice retest of that prior top, but below, if we can start to trade below 149.21, we should expect prices to come back down. And once again, we'll use the 50-period view app as our magnet, which resides down in the low 148s. And we'll see, you know, this will give us a little bit clearer indication if we start to trade below 149.21 that we possibly test the week longs here and see who's got staying power. So we're keeping a close eye on that. And like we said, we mentioned the short ends having, you know, mostly in vogue here with the Fed having to do a 360. Here we show the 5s 30s or the FOB, which us Chicago traders like to call the 5s 30s the FOB, is continuing in their steepening trend. So kind of exact opposite trend channels. If you look at like the 5s 30s and then you look at the euro, you know, it's like almost the exact opposite. So there you go. There's your long short. We're not recommending that. We're not telling you to do that, but it's something to keep an eye on. So you know, this backed off a little bit at the beginning of the month due to with the employment report. It did fall. You know, it got up to here, you know, 65-ish area, and then back down to like 58. But yeah, you can see we're up already 10 basis points from there. And you know, it's just mid-range of its channel here, so it's gonna, you know, we don't expect any change to this. The Fed's gonna have to cut, and the 5s are gonna lead the way, and the 30s are gonna lag behind the 5s. So you know, this steepening should continue here as the Fed falls further and further behind the curve, and the bond market forces their fate. See, the central banks can only do so much, and the bond market will force their hand, like they did. You know, they didn't say that, but they had to lower the interest rate on the excess reserves because you know, the market started to trade above the effective Fed funds rate, so they had to lower it. Now the market can force the Fed and the central banks this way because not even the Fed is bigger than the global bond market. So something to continue to watch. We still continue. We like to buy this 5s 30s on any pullbacks here until this trend channel changes, but we don't expect it to change. The Fed's got no choice. Although the you know, we'll see. We'll see when they do it. Odds are in July it's very minimal, but the first rate cut is expected to come in September, right when they stop the balance sheet runoff. So back to QE forever, guys. All right, that's it. Finally, this is something totally off topic of trading and all that, but we follow this guy on YouTube, Mr. MBB333, and we think he puts out some really great stuff, and we think you should take a look at his stuff here. He had somebody, for those of you that don't know, I'm a big fan of the electric universe and plasma physics, and sometimes this guy puts on pictures or videos that people send him, and he asks for explanations, but nobody's come up with a good explanation for what this person saw. So I want you guys to check it out and see what you think, but go to his channel. I'll play a little bit here, but I don't want to steal his thunder, and so you can go see him and look at his stuff and subscribe. But let's check it out.
Almost in some cases to purple within seconds. Look at that. And I know with auroras, blue means nitrogen, and I think green means oxygen. And in this case here, I'm not exactly sure what we've got going on. We've got light blue, we've got dark blue, we've got purple.
All right, guys, I'll let you view his this video on his channel, but as you know, nothing in nature is linear, and these are vertical linear lines of light coming down, or are they going up? I'm not even sure if they're coming from the sky or they're coming from the ground, but this person is saying it was lightning, but I've never seen lightning like this. So where these lights are coming from or what's causing these, I don't know, but it's pretty cool. So we live in a cool changing universe, so I want you guys to be cognizant of all the things we look at. And that's it. Magnelibra, Econemotions, Mike Gagney, I'm out.